Hey guys, so today I'm going to show you how to get up and running with a Bootstrap 4 website really nice and quickly. And hopefully by the end of the video it's going to look something like this. So first of all, a prerequisite. To carry out the steps involved in this video, you're going to need to have Node.js installed. And you can download it from here and install it really quickly. And to check that you have it installed, in the terminal you can just say node-v and that'll tell you your version. So once you have Node installed, we can get started. First of all, I guess, on the Bootstrap website, they do provide a good tutorial on getting a website up and running nice and quickly. But these files are imported from CDNs online, which obviously makes your website not as performant as it would be if you had these files locally. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to build a production-ready website using Bootstrap 4. So now we can get started. Inside the terminal, we're going to initialize our node project. We're going to say npm init, and we're just going to go through all the defaults, and this will create a package.json file for us. So now that we have our package.json file and our node project initialized, we need to install our dependencies. So we have 3 dependencies and 3 dev dependencies, and we'll install those now. So dependencies, we're going to install, and we're going to save them. We're going to install Bootstrap, jQuery, and popper.js. And the dev dependencies we need, we're going to install npm install -- save dev this time, browser sync, gulp, and gulp sass. The next thing we're going to do is initialize our first HTML file. So we're going to say touch index.html, and this will create our HTML file. And for now, I'm just going to paste all this code in, and I'm going to run through it in a while, but for now, don't worry about it. Honestly, I'm going to go through it. A lot of this code is just coming from the Bootstrap documentation. For example, we're creating a nav bar here, but I'm going to run through all this in a minute. But first of all, I'm going to show you how to get this set up. So we're going to create a gulp file. So we're going to say touch gulp file.js, and inside here we're going to require gulp. So we're going to say const gulp equals require gulp, and we also need something called browser sync, which we installed before. So we're going to say const browser sync equals require browser-sync, and we're going to call a function on that straight away called create. And the last thing we need is sass. So we're going to require sass. And now we're ready to create our first gulp task. If you haven't used gulp before, don't worry, this is really easy. We're just going to create a task to with a development server which will serve this index.html file. So gulp.task, we're going to call it serve, just serve, and provide a callback function, and we're going to say browser sync.init, and we're passing in arguments. We're going to say that the server is serving from just the root of the project, and open is going to be false because we don't want to open the browser by default. I think by default it opens Safari, which I don't really like. So now that we have this gulp task initialized, from here we can say gulp serve. By the way, if this doesn't work, you may also need to install gulp globally, by saying npm install -g gulp, but that's just if this doesn't work. You may need gulp installed globally as well as inside the project, but I have it installed, so I can say gulp serve, and this is going to start our development server, which is going to serve this HTML file. So now if I go into the browser and go to localhost 3000, something is wrong. I need to save this HTML file, refresh, and now we can see that we're getting the contents from this HTML file. But at the minute it has no Bootstrap styling and isn't very functional. So now we're going to fix that, and to fix that we're going to go into our gulp file, and now we need to create gulp tasks to bring the Sass and the JavaScript from inside the modules that we required and put them into a build folder, which our HTML file is looking for. So to do that, we're going to go into our gulp file and we're going to create these tasks. So the first task we're going to create is a Sass task. So we're going to say gulp.task, and the name of it is Sass. Again, we're providing a callback function, and inside this function we're going to return gulp.source, and the source of the Sass is going to be node modules /bootstrap /scss /bootstrap .scss, and we're going to pipe this and provide the Sass function that we required up here. And then we can say that pipe gulp.destination, and the destination is going to be a build directory /css, and this should be pipe, not pule. And we have one more thing to pipe. We're going to pipe browser sync browser sync .stream, and this is going to automatically reload the browser for us whenever this task is detected. So that's really nice. So now inside the serve task, we want to provide more than just this one function. So how do we do that? We're going to say gulp.series here, and this series is going to contain this function, but first of all it's going to contain Sass, and then a comma. So gulp.series basically just takes a list of functions that you want to provide in, so we also need to close that out here. So if we save that, and this should be build.css, if we save that and run gulp serve again, this should work, and as you can see when we refresh straight away we have all this lovely Bootstrap, which is really nice. So now to make all this a bit handier for us, instead of calling gulp serve every time, we can create a task called default, and we can just say gulp.series, and we're just going to pass in serve. So now instead of saying gulp serve every time, we can stop this and we can just say gulp. It should work the exact same way. So now that we have that done for our Sass files, we also need to do the same thing for our JavaScript files. So if we go here and we look at the developer tools, we can actually see that we're failing to load some of the resources because they're not found. So we want to get rid of all these errors. And to do that, we're going to create a gulp task to move the JavaScript files from our node modules into our build directory as well. So to do that, we can say gulp.task JS, and same as before, we're going to provide a callback function, and we're going to return gulp.source, which again takes an array, node modules /bootstrap /dist js bootstrap.min.js, and we also need jQuery, so we can say node modules jQuery dist jQuery .min.js. The last one we need is popper, so we can say again node modules popper.js dist. I think it's in something called umd popper.min.js, and from this we need to pipe. This should all be indented as well. We need to pipe in a destination, and this time it's going to be build.js. And as you can see, we don't actually have that directory yet, but this is automatically going to be created for us. And we need to pipe again browser sync stream, which is a function. If we save that, and now inside our serve task, we also need to pass in JS. We're just missing a comma here. If we save that, run gulp again, we can see that now our JavaScript file was automatically created. And if we refresh again, we can see that a lot of these errors have went away, and we actually just have 2 left. So the last 2 we have left are something really useful. So at the minute, all of our JavaScript and CSS is coming from the node modules. But what if we want to overwrite some of this? We can do this by adding our own custom JavaScript and CSS, and you could just add it directly in here to the HTML file. But for a production website, you want things to be really nice and clean. So let's create these files outside here. So we have build at the minute, but we're going to create a source directory. So we're going to say make dir source, and inside source we're going to create another directory called JS and another called SCSS. So now inside this JS folder, we're going to create a file. So we're going to say touch source JS, and we're going to call it script.js. And inside this file, for now, all we're going to do is console.log hello world. If we save that, we know that this file lives inside here, but we want everything to be built inside build and JavaScript. So how do we do that? We already have our task called JS, and we have it looking for these sources, but we can add one more source in here. So we can add a source which is just src JS, and we're just going to put 2 stars, which means any files inside this directory also get them. So if we stop and run gulp again, you can see that now this script was built into the JavaScript file, which is really nice. And if we go back to the browser and refresh, you can see that now we're missing that error, and we actually are requiring this JavaScript file now and printing out hello world. And by the way, if we go into our HTML file, you can see that these scripts are all being required already from inside the build directory, inside JS, and we're requiring each of the files. So that's really nice. So now we want to do the same thing, but for SCSS. So we're going to create a file inside there. So we're going to say touch source SCSS, and we're just going to call it style.scss. And inside this file, we're going to change the color of the background color of the body. So we're going to say background is blue. If we save that, again, we have to edit our gulp file. So inside our Sass task, we had one source, but we want to add another one. So the source we want to add is src SCSS, and again we're just going to add a wildcard. And if we save that and run gulp again, our server is starting, and if we refresh, all the errors are now gone away. We can see we're printing out hello world, and our background is now blue. So that's really nice. So this is great, and at the minute we're serving these, but we have to keep stopping and starting our server to get the updates. So how can we stop needing to do this. We can use some gulp functionality called watch, and we can add this to our serve task. So inside serve, we need to watch a few things. We need to watch our style, our SCSS, our JavaScript, and our actual HTML file. So let's do that. So you want to say gulp.watch, and first of all we're going to start off with our SCSS. So we just have this directory that we're watching, even though, to be honest, we don't really need to watch this because this isn't going to change. So let's just watch our source SCSS /star, and if anything changes here, we want to use gulp.series SASS, and this is just the name of our task, our SAS task. So if we save that and stop and run gulp again, now it's actually going to be watching this. So if I refresh this and go back into our source style.css and change background to green and hit save, you can see that something happened here in the terminal. You could see that it was watching and it detected changes, so it carried out this task. If we go back, it's green without needing to stop the server. So if we go back and change this to white and save, same again, it all happens automatically and the browser actually refreshes for us. So we want to do the same thing for our JavaScript. So let's do that. Let's say gulp.watch, and we're just watching for source, JS, and wildcard. And we can say gulp.series, and we want to carry out the JS task. So if we save that, stop our server, and start it again, and refresh our page, you can see at the minute we're printing out hello world. But if I say change that, hit save, this ran, and now you can see it printed out the new one. So that's really nice. The last thing we want to do is watch for changes in this HTML file, and if there's any changes, we want to automatically refresh the browser. So to do that, we're going to say gulp.watch star.html .on. If something changes, we want to call browser sync .reload. And if we hit save and stop our server, start it again, this should work. So at the minute, as you can see, our title is just Bootstrap 4 boilerplate project. If we change this and change it to project new and hit save, you can see our task ran and this has been updated. So this is a really nice development environment where things that we change here are automatically being updated, and this is all working with Bootstrap. So that's the tutorial finished. I know I promised you guys that I would run through this HTML file, so now that this is finished, we can do that. So if I just maximize this, you can see that this is just the metadata, and we're requiring the style sheets. Then we have our body, and inside this body we're using a Bootstrap class called container, which everything is just contained inside. And then we have nav, and if we go to the Bootstrap documentation, if I go to nav, you can see that this is an example, and basically what I've done is just copied this sort of stuff and added in my own little things. And that's the great thing about Bootstrap. There's loads of examples and components you can use straight off the bat, and this is all I've done here. So that's what the nav is, and I've just added in my own navbar items. And then we have a jumbotron. So here again, if you just search for jumbotron, you can see this is all this is, and I've just added in my own text here, and this is the jumbotron here. And then at the end, I'm just requiring my scripts, which are needed for the interactive stuff of Bootstrap, and also my own custom script. So this has been how to create your own Bootstrap 4 website. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to comment, and I'll see you next time.